in the attendance. Okay. Oh, I didn't get Mackenzie. Quickly fill that in. Okay. All right. So, like I said, I'd like to do a break right around 8:05, 8:10, since we're starting a little late here. And we'll get started. Up. Is anybody having trouble finding the notes? Just put in the chat that you can't find them, and I'll try to assist if I can. But otherwise, I'm going to assume that everyone is where they should be and ready to go. Okay, here we go. All right. So, for your today's warm-up, whoops, I'm way in the, for today's warm-up, yeah.
Alyssa said that your Google Meet link kicked her, like your Google Meet kicked her out and won't let her back in.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know how that.
She just texted me and said that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't done anything. Tell her I emailed her.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because everyone else is in here, so I have no idea. I don't control that, I guess. You can text her back.
That's just weird.
You can text her back that I'm recording, so you know, I would keep trying, but if nothing else works, then just let her know that it's being recorded. So
when I was trying to get in, every website on my computer is blocked except Classroom.
Yeah, I did that.
How do you do that?
Oh, I have my special ways.
You're not telling your secret?
No secrets. I'm not telling you a thing. I was messing with this new thing and I locked you all. So anyway.
I thought class wasn't today. I was about to fall back asleep. I was like, class starts at 7:35, Ms. Zuko.
I know, and I was sitting here wondering where everybody was. So anyway.
And she did that to herself.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to start so we can get going here, you chatty Cathys. All right, here we go. All right, back to this. Everybody's awake, right? You're listening to me? These are the starts of our notes, and so here we go. Okay, so our objectives, these should be on your notes. I put those in there this time. So these are all the things you're going to learn. You're going to be able to describe the characteristic differences between saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. You're going to be able to list 5 functions of lipids in the body. You'll be able to summarize how the body digests, absorbs, and transports lipids. Explain the role fats play in the heart health. Identify 10 health heart risk factors, and make food choices that follow the recommended limits for dietary fats and cholesterol. So when we're all done, we'll have all that accomplished. Those are like our goals, or I can do these certain things. Okay, so fats do seem to be a common topic on the health and nutrition front. Americans eat way too much fat. How many grams of fat are in that food? And then have you tried the latest low-fat diet? So those are all some of the things that come into play. There are some good reasons to be concerned about fat. Too much fat in the diet is linked to a variety of health problems. However, fats are not all bad. In fact, fats perform many important functions in the body. You need to eat foods containing some fats every day. So the goal is to choose foods with the right amount of fat for a healthy diet. We'll be looking at that, what fats are healthy, what fats are not healthy. Give me 1 second. I need to go open the door for my dog. 1 second. Okay, sorry, they're driving me insane this morning. They want to go out, they don't want to go out. Oh, okay. All right, so moving on. So this should be the first part of your notes. So I did try to do some color coding to try to help you connect the dots. And so hopefully that'll work. So there are three lipids. So there's three main classes of lipids. There's triglycerides, phospholipids, and sterols. Some people call them steroids, but I call them sterols. So you'll need to know that. And so that's why I highlighted lipids in green in all of these, because these are lipids: triglycerides, phospholipids, and sterols. All right, if I go too fast, just give me a hand up, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna kind of talk about these three lipids. So I highlighted tri because there's three. Tri means like tricycle, so three wheels, three triglycerides. Okay, so they're the major type of fat found in food and in the body, and they consist of three fatty acids attached to a glycerol molecule. So I have this little image here, so that's your glycerol, and it's attached to these fatty acids. And there's three of them, and I'm going to describe them to you in the next slide. Oh, my lances. All right, moving on. Okay, so fatty acids are organic compounds made up of a chain of carbon atoms to which hydrogen atoms are attached. So we got carbon and hydrogen. And I'll show you a visual as we kind of progress through here. All right, I'm gonna turn unless I hear hands up. Okay. So the first one of the triglycerides are saturated fatty acids. Okay, they have no double bonds in their chemical structure and they have a full load of hydrogen atoms. And if I'm talking a foreign language, I'll show you a visual when we get a little closer going through these, and hopefully it'll make more sense. Okay. Now this one, this one is unsaturated fatty acids, and there's two types. So when we talk about triglycerides, we're talking about saturated and then these two types of unsaturated fatty acids. But just describe unsaturated, they have at least one double bond between two carbons in each molecule. If a double bond is broken, two hydrogen atoms can be added to the molecule. And the number of double bonds and hydrogen atoms in the fatty acid chain determine the degree of saturation. Thing from each slide, just get a piece of it. Abby, will you give me a hand blurb when you have this written, please? Thanks, hon. Okay, so the two unsaturated are mono, and we know that mono means one. So a mono unsaturated fatty acid has only one double bond between carbon atoms. Only one double bond between carbon atoms. So I tried to do a play on colors there, mono one. So hopefully that would help you understand. Abby, I'm going to use you again. Thank you. Okay, and then there's the polyunsaturated. Remember, poly means more than one. I'm sorry, two or more. So it has two or more double bonds. So this is kind of a picture of that. So you have your saturated fatty acids. Okay, so there's single bonds between the carbons and hydrogens. And then when you go to mono, you have one double bond between the carbons. And when you have polyunsaturated fatty acids, you have two or more double bonds between the carbons. Okay, so that's kind of what all that meant in a jumble of words. So if you're better visually, then this is going to help you understand saturation, mono, and poly, and why I was talking about single bonds, double bonds, and how many there are. So hopefully this image kind of put it all together for those that are visually learn best that way. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through. Okay. I'm assuming that we're ready for the next one. Okay, so fats and oils contain a mixture of 3 types of fatty acids, and these are all examples. Now, this is important to write down because our activity that goes with this, you're going to have to know the different types of oils that are part of a poly or a mono. So make sure you get that down. So corn oil, this is just an example. They all have different forms of saturation and unsaturation. So we have corn oil that is 13% saturated fat, and then we have, it also has 25% mono and 62% poly. So we would classify this as an unsaturated fat, but understand that there is some saturation within it. Okay, so I'll show you a visual about that too. Fat and meat, dairy products include beef fat, lard, and butter fat. They do tend to be high in the saturated fatty acids. Fats from plants are usually higher in the unsaturated fatty acids. So when we're looking at monos, which is that one double bond, we have oils like olive oil and peanut oil that are in that category. And then we have the poly, and those would be things like corn oil, sunflower oil, and soybean oil. Now, the tropical oils you would think are good, but they're not. So we have, those would be things like coconut and palm oil are an exception to the rule about fats from plants. So they're high in saturated fatty acids, but some of them do tend to be more liquidy. Okay. So make sure that, you have that mono. An example would be like olive oil, peanut oil, poly, corn, sunflower, soybean oil. And then for the tropicals, make sure you have palm and coconut as being a saturated fatty acid. And that'll help you with your assignment if we get to it today, which I'm hoping we will, but time will tell. Okay, and then Abby, just give me another blurb if you could. I know there was a lot on this slide, but like I always say, write what you feel is the most important. And you can always do shorthand if you need to, abbreviate. Thanks, Abby. Okay, so this is just a good kind of visual that kind of shows you blue is saturated, yellow is mono, and the pink is the polyunsaturated. So you can kind of see that all oils have all of those fatty acids within it. It's just the percent of how saturated they are. So you look at sunflower or safflower oil, and it's poly, okay? Whoops. So mainly it's going to be a good fat. But then you go over here where you got your butter fat and it's 66% saturated, which is on the high side. So this would be obviously saturated. And it whoops, I keep trying to scroll down and I can't do that. And then you have your palm oil and your coconut oil, which are also very saturated. So this is just a good picture to show you that they all have these forms of oils in them, or fatty acids, I should say. But at what degree? Okay, so that just gives you that example. All right, so here's where I'm going to pause and give us our 5-minute break. So at 8:15, I'd like you all to return. So I just want to, just to give us a break on writing for a few minutes. Let's reconvene at 8:15. Go to the bathroom, get up, get dressed maybe for some of you. Go get some coffee or get your beverage that you have in the morning or whatever. But let's take just a 5-minute break for, just to break up the monotony of writing notes. I hate to have you guys sit here and do notes the whole time. It makes me ill, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Lauren, I don't know if you're still here, but I sent them to you via email. Okay. Let's start back up here. All right. Hopefully everybody was able to get done what they needed to, and so we can get started again. Abby, I'm going to use you again if that's okay for the notes. Lauren, did you hear what I told you or not? All right, let's continue on. Ugh. Waited here. Okay, so saturated is solid at room temperature. So if you think in your, if you left out butter, some people, not everybody, but they'll put butter up in the cupboard so it's soft when they want to use it. So that's saturated. Okay, it's solid at room temperature. And you have to assume if it's solid at room temperature out on the counter, what is it inside of you? So saturated is not the good fat, it's the bad fat. Okay. So if you can think of any oils, type of oil that's solid, like lard, let's say, which is basically the drippings off of meat. And, like at our house, sometimes they'll cook something like bacon or something, let's just say. And then they leave the pan on the stove and it just solidifies. And then you got to, once it solidifies, then you got to, get a paper towel and scoop it out and throw it away. So that's solid at room temperature. And then you have the unsaturated, which is liquid at room temperature. And this is because unsaturated fats have a lower melting point, more highly saturated fats. So chicken fat versus butter fat. Okay. Okay. Then we need to talk about hydrogenation and then trans fatty acids. So hydrogenation is the process of breaking the double bond in unsaturated fatty acids and adding hydrogen. So this process converts liquid oils into solid fats. So it's going to change its texture. It's going to improve its keep quality so that oils don't turn rancid if they're exposed to the air or they're stored for a really long time. So when a food is rancid, that is the fatty acid molecules have combined with oxygen, and this causes them to break down and the oil spoils, and it really has an unpleasant taste and smell. So, like if you were to cook with it or something, there would be a really off flavor to whatever it is you're cooking with that oil. So that's what hydrogenation does. It kind of sounds hydrogen is being added to the unsaturated fatty acids, which is going to make it more saturated. And then Abby, will you just give me the 411 on when I can go to the next one? Thank you. And then we just have a few more to go. Okay, so this is kind of an example of what hydrogenation of unsaturated fats would look like. So hydrogen can be added across the carbon-to-carbon double bond in an unsaturated fatty acid. And this reaction is called hydrogenation and decreases the level of unsaturation in the fatty acid. So you can kind of see if they take the double bond out and then add in hydrogen, that it makes it more rigid. And so you have your hydrogens and your carbons. And so that makes it more saturated. So that's just a good example to kind of show you how they can take the double bond away once hydrogen is added, which makes it hydrogenation, which will then make it more saturated. So hopefully, this isn't in your notes, by the way. It's just I wanted to, kind of give you a visual. Like me, I'm a visual learner, so you can say all these words to me, but it helps if I can actually see what it is you're talking about, and then I can connect with that material a little bit easier. So if you're like me, hopefully this helps. All right, so moving on. All right, then we have trans fatty acids. So when oils are partially hydrogenated, some of the unsaturated fatty acids in the oils will change their molecule shapes. So it acts much like saturated fat in the body, and it's linked to heart disease. So this is just a good picture here where it kind of shows you that it's an unsaturated double bond. And this thing is in my way. I don't know. Anyway, so the hydrogens are like across in a way, they're connected to the carbons. And down here, you can kind of see how they're misplaced a little bit. And that's how you can change the unsaturated into the trans fat. So there's another visual for you. Hopefully that helps. For trans fat, they have done a lot with that to try to cut it out of the diet because they know it's so bad for consumers. So they basically can put 0.5% of trans fat in products without, having regulations come down on them. But it's in a serving, so they can fluctuate the servings to be able to put more in, even though, it's still 0.5 in a serving. But if your serving is, really small or big, it can alter how much trans fat is going to be in there. Okay, and then I have this little video I want to show you, and that will kind of help again with people that are more visual and how that works. So let me get into where I need to be so that I can show that to you. All right. Abby, will you vocally tell me whether you can hear it and see it, please? I'm going to go ahead and play it. Just let me know if you cannot hear it. And I need it vocal because I can't see the chat.
I can hear it.
Okay, thanks.
Olive oil is 100% fat. There's nothing else in it. Pancake mix, on the other hand, is only about 11% fat. And yet, olive oil is good for you, and pancake mix is not. Why is that? As it turns out, the amount of fat we eat doesn't impact our weight or our cholesterol or our risk of heart disease nearly as much as what kind of fat we eat. But let's back up. What is fat? If we were to zoom in on a salmon, which is a fatty fish, past the organs, past the tissues, into the cells, we would see that the stuff we call fat is actually made up of molecules called triglycerides, and they are not all alike. Here's one example. Those 3 carbons on the left, that's glycerol. Now you can think of that as the backbone that holds the rest of the molecule together. The 3 long chains on the right are called fatty acids, and it's subtle differences in the structures of these chains that determine whether a fat is, let's say, solid or liquid, whether or not it goes rancid quickly, and, most importantly, how good or how bad it is for you. Let's take a look at some of these differences. One is length. Fatty acids can be short or long. Another, more important difference is the type of bond between the carbon atoms. Some fatty acids have only single bonds. Others have both single and double bonds. Fatty acids with only single bonds are called saturated, and those with one or more double bonds are called unsaturated. Now, most unsaturated fats are good for you, while saturated fats are bad for you in excess. For saturated fats, the story pretty much ends there, but not for unsaturated fats. The double bonds in these molecules have kind of a weird property. They're rigid. So that means that there are two ways to arrange every double bond. The first is like this, where both hydrogens are on the same side and both carbons are on the same side. The second way is like this. Now the hydrogens and carbons are on opposite sides of the double bond. Now, even though both of these molecules are made up of exactly the same building blocks, they are two completely different substances and they behave completely differently inside of us. The configuration on the left is called cis, which you've probably never heard of. The one on the right is called trans, and you probably have heard of trans fats before. They don't go rancid, they're more stable during deep frying, and they can change the texture of foods in ways that other fats just can't. They're also terrible for your health, by far worse than saturated fat, even though technically they're a type of unsaturated fat. Now, I know that seems crazy, but your body doesn't care what a molecule looks like on paper. All that matters is the 3D shape, where the molecule fits, where it doesn't, and what pathways it interferes with. So how do you know if a food has trans fat in it? Well, the only sure way to know is if you see the words partially hydrogenated in the ingredients list. Don't let nutrition labels or advertising fool you. The FDA allows manufacturers to claim that their products contain, quote, 0 grams of trans fat, even if they actually have up to half a gram per serving. But there are no hard and fast rules about how small a serving can be, and that means you'll have to rely on seeing those key words, partially hydrogenated, because that's how trans fats are made, by partially hydrogenating unsaturated fats. So let's go back to our olive oil and pancake mix from before. Olive oil is 100% fat. Pancake mix is only 11% fat. But olive oil is mostly unsaturated fat, and it has no trans fat at all. On the other hand, more than half the fat in pancake mix is either saturated or trans fat. And so even though olive oil has 10 times as much fat as pancake mix, it's healthy for you, whereas pancake mix is not. Now, I'm not trying to pick on pancake mix. There are lots of foods with this type of fat profile. The point is this. It's not how much fat you eat, it's what kind of fat. And what makes a particular fat healthy or unhealthy is its shape.
Okay. 2 more to go. All right. So we have another type of fatty acid, which is a phospholipid. So just like the word says, phospho, the lipid does have phosphorus containing compound in their chemical structure. So I kind of link those two colors together to hopefully make sense of that for you. Lecithin is a phospholipid. It's made by the liver, so it's not essential to the diet, and it's found in egg yolk. And then an emulsifier is a substance that can be mixed with water and fat. So like you think of mayonnaise. So you have, this is how you make mayonnaise: eggs, oil, and vinegar. Okay, so you have, usually they say water and oil don't mix. Okay, so when we add vinegar in there, it changes and it's able to stick together so that things are not separated. So that's what an emulsifier will do. And it's not a magical nutrient. It's broken down when digested. And then Ab, let me know. Got 1 more to go, and then I'm going to give you your assignment. Thank you. Okay, so sterols are complex molecule structures. They include some hormones, vitamin D, cholesterol. Cholesterol is a white, waxy lipid made by the body that is part of every cell. The body uses cholesterol for sex hormones, bile acids. Cholesterol is found only in animal tissue. Okay, so you're not going to find cholesterol in vegetables or fruit because it doesn't come from an animal. So cholesterol is only found in animal tissue. It is never present in plants, and it's not essential in the diet because the body will manufacture it. And then give me a heads up on that, and I'm going to go in and assign your, I guess at this point it would be homework. It's not, it'll take you like maybe 10 minutes to do the assignment. It's not going to be real lengthy as long as you took notes. If you didn't take notes, then it's going to take a long time. All right. Abby, give me that blurb. Thanks. Okay, so if we go into Google Classroom, it's called Facing Fats. And I'm going to go ahead and assign it right now. There isn't a deadline on it. I'll do that here in a second. I just want to be able to get this out to you so that you understand what you need to do. Because it's pretty straightforward. If it loads sometime in this century. Okay, so if we, whoops, wrong thing. Not what I wanted. No, no, I don't want that. Okay, so you go into the worksheet. And I did an example for you just to give you kind of a way to figure out how to do it, but you're going to fill in the chart below describing types of fat, the prevalent types of fatty acids that they contain, and their states at room temperature. Then answer the questions at the bottom of the page about triglycerides and other lipids. So basically, like beef fat, it's the fatty acid is saturated, and is it liquid or solid at room temperature? And you want to say solid. And these are all the ones that we talked about in class today. So you should be able to figure out whether they're saturated, solid, or liquid. And then we talked about hydrogenation, trans fat, phospholipids, lecithin, emulsifiers, cholesterol. So that's all going to be in your notes. The one that you might not get that I'll tell you right now is tropical oils are liquid at room temperature, even though they're saturated. Okay, so just make sure you get that right. So this is the assignment. I'm going to go over it the next time we meet on Thursday. So make sure that you get it done by Thursday. I'll put Friday as the deadline only because of the virtual kids. Because they probably won't see this until Friday because they're going to take the test on Wednesday. So just kind of keep that in mind. I'll put the 23rd down. Okay, so are there any questions that you guys have at all about anything there? Okay, so unsaturated is monopoly. It's the good fat. It has double bonds. I don't know what else you want me to tell you. You can go back and watch the video, Caroline, and grab it from that. Because it's on there. And unsaturated is typically liquid. That would be like your, you know, any olive oil, corn oil, all that. Anybody else have questions? I want to be able to go over this on Thursday, so try to get it done before then, even though the deadline's Friday, just so that we can go over it. All right, that's it for Zupka today. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry about the glitching there at the beginning. I was trying something new, and I guess I need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to make it better. So anyway, let me know if you have questions. You can email me. If you didn't get all the notes, go to the recording. I'll have that in as soon as the end of the day. And otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you Thursday. Oh,